we are discussing this Pascal's law, and that Pascal's law is nothing but if you want to find that this law states that means pressure intensity inside a fluid element at rest is equal in all directions, and that is means pressure in x direction equal to pressure in y direction equal to pressure in z direction. That px is equal to py is equal to pz, right? That's we have seen, and you can verify mathematically this pressure is equal and in all direction. And I will share one video in that it will physically demonstrate you that how pressure is equal in all the directions inside a fluid element at a rest, and where this Pascal's law is valid. Validity means this Pascal's law is valid only when there is a shear stress is zero, and now if is shear stress is zero means under which situation shear stress will be zero, that we will see. If fluid is at that situation, then also we are getting a shear stress as a zero. How shear stress is getting as zero? Because as velocity is zero means change in velocity is also zero, means your velocity gradient is zero. As your velocity gradient is zero, then your shear stress is zero. That's why I am saying that first sentence, that Pascal's law is valid for not only for the ideal fluids but for the real fluid at a rest. That is the thing. Then second situation, that is ideal fluid in motion, and we know that ideal means it will not have any fluid property, means its viscosity is zero. As viscosity is zero, its shear stress is zero, means Pascal's law is valid. Means for ideal fluids, you are in state of motion, your Pascal's law is valid. But if you want to check with real fluids, then real fluids will have two different kinds of motion. It will have fluid properties, means its dynamic viscosity will not be a zero. Its dynamic viscosity will not be a zero. Means there may be a existence of a shear stress, but if the motion of the real fluid is a rigid body motion or uniform motion, means generally if you check your Newton's first law of viscosity, that is valid. Means when you are that body at a state of rest or it is in uniform motion, means relative motion is uniform, then you can check rigid body motion or uniform motion, means velocity is constant throughout it, right? You can check here viscosity is not equal to zero, but velocity is uniform, means its change in velocity is zero. That is numerator is zero, that's why your velocity gradient is zero, that's why your shear stress is zero. That's why I can make a second third sentence that means Pascal's law is valid for a real fluids with uniform pressure at all point with rigid body motion also. But if the motion is a general motion or non-uniform motion, then your Pascal's law is not valid. Why? Because velocity is non-uniform, means change in velocity that exists. As change in velocity exists, your velocity gradient will not be equal to zero. It is non-zero. That's why the shear stress exists. That's why you cannot apply Pascal's law for the rigid body for the real fluid with non-uniform motion or a general motion. You can apply Pascal's law for a real fluids with uniform motion only. That you can remember. Then that is all about the definition of the Pascal's law and where it is applicable. Means Pascal's law is applicable in the situations where the shear stress is zero. Now, where the shear stress is zero, that you have to check. Shear stress is zero for ideal fluid, for a real fluid, as well as at rest. That is one situation. Then shear stress is zero for ideal fluid in any kind of motion, because that is fluid properties are zero. That's why shear stress is zero. But for real fluid, shear stress is zero in only one situation, when real fluid is with a rigid body motion or with uniform motion. That's why Pascal's law is applicable for real fluids with a rigid body motion only. And this if real fluid is with general or non-uniform motion, means velocity changing, then you cannot apply Pascal's law. That is the all about the Pascal's law and its limitation. Now then there is another point, Mohr circle. Then you will come across this Mohr circle point whenever you are trying to study the complex stresses topic from your strength of materials. You might have studied this complex stresses, means generally normal stresses are there. You have studied, means there are two kinds of basic stresses exist. One is the normal stresses and other is the shearing stresses, right? Now we are classifying it as a principal stresses and all that, major stress, minor stress, and this there is one graphical method. If you want to find out the resultant of this stress system, because there are if there are multiple forces acting, then this Moore is the, again name of the scientist, and if you want to find out the resultant or find out the total normal stress, if there are more stresses are acting, there's this Mohr circle method is used. Now if we have to apply this Mohr circle for this fluid element inside a fluid body, right? Means you can see a Mohr circle is drawn for a fluid element inside a fluid body for ideal fluid at rest and for a real fluid in rest, right? And third one is a real fluid in a rigid body motion. Rigid body motion means shear stress is zero and pressure is uniform in all the directions. Now this is the rigid body motion, this point, and this is the general or non-uniform motion. Now this formula is from the concept of the strength of material. In the strength of material, if you want to find out these major stresses, normal stresses, then you are calculating. There is one formula, that is stress in x direction plus stress in y direction divided by 2 plus or minus square root of sigma x minus sigma y divided by 2 square plus tau xy square. That is a shear stress in xy plane, right? And for in our case, we are saying that pressure is equal in all the direction inside a fluid element at rest. Then our sigma x and sigma y is equal to P, because both is same. And for Pascal's law, at a fluid at rest, shear stress is zero. And if you substitute all these points inside this equation, then you'll get one equation for sigma 1 and sigma 2. And that is just constant value. You can check sigma x plus sigma y, P plus P, 2P by P means it is a P. Means this whole term will come as a P. Then it will be a zero. It will be zero. Means you are getting a sigma 1, that is a major stress and minor stress, as a P only. So you this is the P. So if you can plot on x-axis, there will be a normal stress. On y-axis, there will be a shear stress, and you are getting a some negative x or negative P, or you will get this P. Means just a point, right? That is a Mohr circle for a fluid element at a rest. Means it is just a point on the normal axis. You can remember, sometimes there will be a multiple choice question where Mohr circle will be there, or sometimes options will be given that uh, Mohr circle, or what is the shape of the Mohr circle, or where this Mohr circle lies for the fluid element at a rest. That's all about this Mohr circle. Now, what we have discussed today is that we try to study this fluid static concept. Means what we are going to study under the title of fluid statics. Means we have to find out the pressure exerted by the fluid at rest on any surfaces which are in contact with them. Any surface means the surface may be a horizontal surface, it may be a vertical surface, or it may be inclined surface, or it may be a curved surface. For that, so a simple example that I have given, a bottle, a plastic bottle, means 1 liter water is stored inside the plastic bottle. But as an engineer, if you want to compute how much that water is exerting a force on the bottom surface of the bottle, on the as well as on the curved surface of the bottle, then how will you estimate that point? Estimation of the pressure or the point where that all pressure is acting, that is also known as the center of pressure. Then how to estimate the center of pressure, and how to find out the total pressure force acting on any surfaces which are in contact with the fluid at a rest, that we are going to study under this title of the fluid statics. And there is another point, pressure measuring devices, because if you check the title, that is the pressure measurement and fluid statics, means how to measure the pressure, that from the ancient times to the nowadays in modern days also, how these changes are takes place, that we are going to study under the pressure measuring devices. Initially, we are using, or people are using, the barometers or manometers, and there are certain limitations for these barometers or manometers. We cannot measure the large pressure. That one example that I gave, if you check a barometer, if you want to pressure by using barometer, or nanometer at for atmospheric pressure. One atmospheric pressure means it is just approximately 101 kilopascal or 1 bar, right? And if you want to express this atmospheric pressure in terms of a column head of water, then you require a height of as a 10.3 meter of water. Means you can imagine for approximately one floor height is in the range of a 3 meter. Means you require almost 3 floors height nanometer. Then it is a restriction, means we cannot measure one atmospheric pressure with barometer having water column. And if you want to measure, because it depends upon the density of water, because density of water is 1,000 kg per meter cube. Again, instead of that, if you use the mercury, means mercury inside the manometer, then you can measure the higher pressure. That's why mercury is an manometric fluid, because it will have a higher density. And if you check the density for mercury, it is in the range of 13,600 kg per meter cube. That's what the advantage of that mercury metal, right? That's why if all manometers or barometers in olden days, people are using a mercury, then only you can measure the higher pressure values, right? Then they have thought that a simple L-shaped mercury is not helpful. There are some diagrams also. Then later on we'll see this application. Now you can see initially this how this pressure measurement started. This is a L-shaped barometer is there initial days. Now it is changed. Now the people have thought we need to use mercury in order to measure the large pressure. Now they try to make some inventions, or they try to make some innovations, or they change it, right? And you can check they made it they tried to find out the pressure difference between 2 points by using a YouTube manometer. They made it as in the shape of a YouTube, or sometimes they made again they made it an inverted YouTube. You can see this is a YouTube manometer, or sometimes they made it at a differential YouTube manometer, and sometimes inverted YouTube manometer. And in the modern cases, micro manometer are also there, inclined manometer. Nowadays, mechanical gauges are available, and you might have seen these mechanical gauges whenever you are reaching a petrol pump. There is an air pumping station is there, and if you want to check the air pressure in your front wheel as well as rear wheel, then that fellow is using that mechanical gauge in order to check existing air pressure inside your tire. And then there is a limit, some permissible limit is there, and in order to fill air up to permissible limit, he is getting idea how much that air we need to fill, because there are and that permissible limit decided by we as a civil engineers as well as mechanical engineers, right? How much pressure should be there in front wheel as well as rear wheel. Somewhere sticker will be there on your vehicle. You check that these permissible limits are given, right? That permissible limits are depending upon how much load that vehicle or two-wheeler has to carry, right? Again, it will be different for four-wheelers or some heavy loaded vehicles also. Nowadays, these mechanical gauges are replaced by some digital gauges directly in the form of a display. Here you need to observe this arrow indicates that arrow will give you the pressure value. Pressure value. Now this transducer or some electronic devices are used in order to measure the pressure. In order to measure the pressure value, right? This directly in the form of a digital display, right? They're again costly, right? And that all the parts that there are only basically two parts. One is the fluid statics, and other is a pressure measurement. Under this fluid static, we are going to see how to compute, means how a static water is exerting a force on any surface which is in contact with. That surface may be a horizontal surface, it may be a vertical surface, or it may be an inclined surface, as well as it may be a curved surface. Now, the principle is same, but how to compute it and at what point that total pressure is acting, that point is known as the center of pressure. That point also we need to locate it, so that we will get an idea that we can design that particular surface accordingly, so that it will not fail in the future. Because as engineer we need to take a responsibility that whether the given structure or whatever the structure that we have created or constructed, that should have enough strength, it should have enough stability, right? Sometimes we need to issue a stability structure for the existing structures, means which have some which are constructed 5 years back, 10 years back, or 15 years back. We need to check the present situation and assess whether it will how many years it will be serviceable or it will be a functionable, right? All that points are there. And what we discussed today is that what we are going to study in fluid statics, and how we are going to measure the pressure, and mainly a Pascal's law and the applications of the Pascal's law. And after this lecture, when I have to upload a screenshot for attendance, then almost 30 plus students are there. I will take one screenshot for attendance. If anybody have any question, then you can feel free. If anybody have any question, Gaurav, this point we have started, and you try to solve all the questions from the level 1 as well as level 2 category. Some question solution for level 1 as well as level 2 category that I gave